I just gave my ants a drop of soda, and turns out they absolutely love it. And that's because sugar is crucial to their survival. So today, I'm giving my ants 6 different colorful drinks to see just how far they'll go in order to survive. So can ants find food all while being hunted? Or will they taste the difference between real and fake juice? Well, because these ants found the Coca-Cola so easily, it's already time to buy the second drink. So now, I want you to meet Ant-Man and Citron. Great, now that we've met, I want to see if my ants will prefer real or fake juice. To find out, I connected my colony of red-headed honeypot ants. These ants are pretty cool because inside their nest are these special workers known as repletes. They are basically living refrigerators, and their one job is to hold on to as much food as possible. But while these repletes might look full, there are plenty of other ants that need to drink. Which is why as soon as I attach this tube, they immediately begin to swarm. At first, it looks like the orange soda is going to be their favorite, but after just a few minutes, the ants begin to move over to the real orange. I can't believe my eyes. Altogether, the ants chose the healthier, more natural tasting juice. And at first, I was a little confused, but then I remembered that ants are one of the smartest creatures on our planet. And with their antennae and their mouths, they can easily smell and taste the difference between real and fake juice. So while the orange Fanta might have more sugar, the ants know that it's fake, and these guys only want the real stuff. But this test was way too easy, so the following tests are going to be weirder, scarier, and even deadlier. But first, this is a glass of root beer, and this is the colony that we'll be testing. So after connecting this tube from the ant farm all the way to this mini bar diorama, it doesn't take long for the first ants to explore. Soon, there are hundreds, but I need even more. I need an infestation, and there's only one way to make that happen. Here is a plate of seeds, and here is another. Since these are black harvester ants, they must collect seeds in order to survive. So upon first contact, the colony sends a swarm to collect them. And so now that there's a swarm, it's time to give the ants a drink. Immediately, the ants begin to swarm the root beer. And what's really cool is watching as they climb up to drink from the glass. But the real test is just on the horizon, because I'm not just giving my ants a normal soda. This glass of root beer is actually a root beer float. And this is where things get sketchy. Because while normal soda sits at about 35 degrees Fahrenheit, this root beer float is almost 10 degrees colder. Meaning that if the ants aren't careful, they can actually freeze to death. The ants, however, know this, and so to stay alive, most of them only drink from the splashed puddles of soda that are no longer cold. But if you thought that was cool, this next drink is definitely one of the weirdest. So here are 14 dead roaches, and behind them, a bottle of blue Kool-Aid. During this test, I want to remake the Kool-Aid Man commercial, but to do that, I need to do something extremely weird. So if needles bother you, now is the time to look away. I need to fill this box with roaches, but before I do so, I must first inject Kool-Aid into all 14 of them. Since their bodies are semi-transparent, you can actually see the Kool-Aid inside. So once I'm done, I can seal the roaches inside the box, where on one side there's a wall made of paper towel. And so to complete this test, the ants must rip their way through and eat all of the Kool-Aid roaches. But there's just one problem. The ants have no idea what's inside this box. So to help, I made them a starter hole. But because this hole is super small, only one ant can fit in at a time. So before the ants can collect these Kool-Aid roaches, they must first expand this hole. The only problem is that these are just normal workers, and while they are strong, they aren't strong enough. So they need help from someone stronger. This is a soldier ant, and she is an absolute tank. With her muscular head, she's able to rip into the starter hole, making it even wider. And this allows for more workers to fit in at once. And now that more ants are inside this box, the feast can finally begin. Very quickly, the workers find a roach and try to bring it home. But because this roach is too big to fit through this hole, the ants need a different plan. Instead of making the hole bigger, the ants decide to make the roaches smaller. While the soldiers use their big heads to rip the roaches to shreds, the workers carry them away in small pieces all the way to their nest. So after just a few hours, this once full box is now completely empty. But you know what's not empty? This vending machine. And for this next one, I want to give my ants a bottle of sweet tea. So to make this possible, I connected my ant farm to an island surrounded by water. This tightrope tied to the ant farm connects to this boat, and this boat connects to this tea chest. This is where I'm placing the bottle of sweet tea, and now the ants must find it. Some of the workers already seem interested, but to excite them even more, I'm also giving them some sweet tea droplets, strategically placed on these checkpoints here and here. I'm basically teasing my ants into crossing this tightrope. And so now that the colony is in full-on swarm mode, it's time to see if they'll find their sweet tea. But they must be careful. If they fall off the tightrope, they will drown in the water. But while most of the ants are busy swarming the droplets, this one seems to be on a journey of its own, but she's not alone. And as more ants begin to find the sweet tea, something catches my eye. As the ants drink, their abdomens begin to grow. But what's even cooler is watching as all of the thirsty ants travel down the rope to get a drink, while all of the full ones travel up to make it back home. In just a matter of minutes, one ant turned into 100, and 100 into 1,000. My colony has now taken over this island, and with one last drink left to try, it's time for the final bye. This is Mountain Dew, and that is Mountain Doom. It may look peaceful now, but it hides a deadly secret. For now though, these are 4 different Mountain Dew flavors, and after popping all the bubbles, I put each of them into their own ant soda bottle. So with all 4 Mountain Dew bottles now on Mountain Doom, it's time to bring in the ants. And it doesn't take long for the first ant to find a bottle. As she fills herself with red Mountain Dew, more ants begin to explore. But these ants must be extra careful, because any step they take could be their last. The mountain's floor is like a living minefield. These pits you see in the sand are basically ant death traps, and each one of them belongs to an ant lion. It is an ant's worst nightmare, and the biggest one lives inside this cave at the top of Mount Doom. This is what I call the lion's den, and if the ants aren't careful, the ant lions will hunt and eat them. But as the ants gorge themselves on Mountain Dew, their bodies begin to inflate. This ability allows the ants to collect as much food as they want, and once they bring it back home, they share it with everyone. The queen, her babies, and even each other. But there's one ant that needs the soda even more than the queen. Just like the first colony, this one also has these repletes. And whatever food the foragers bring back from outside, they store inside these special workers. And since they live deep inside the nest, these repletes don't have to worry about being eaten. But some ants aren't that lucky. Back on Mount Doom, an antlion hunted one of the ants. And once an antlion grabs on, it never lets go. But that doesn't stop her sisters from trying to help. As the antlion pulls the worker under the sand, her sisters pull back. Sadly, however, antlions are much stronger than ants, and these workers can't do anything else to save their sister. But this worker's sacrifice will not go unheard. After seeing what happened to their sister, they learn to stay away from the pits. Even the lion's den is carefully avoided. But these workers are still in danger, and if they want to survive, they must avoid all of the antlions. So as they travel, some might get a little too close for comfort. But with the help of their fast, long legs, these ants are able to quickly collect all the soda they want and completely evade death. So with every belly full and every test complete, it's safe to say that my ants are willing to do anything to get their drinks.